The din of the Galactic Academy's training yard hushed as the towering alien stepped forward, his voice a booming proclamation. Is this what humanity has to offer? A species so fragile, it's a wonder you've made it off your planet alive. Cadet Alex Carter tightened his grip on the training baton, the familiar sting of ridicule settling on his shoulders like an old coat. This wasn't the first time humans had been mocked at the Academy. Earth was new to the galactic stage, and its representatives were seen as little more than an amusing footnote in the annals of advanced civilizations. But today felt different. Today, the challenge wasn't veiled in whispers or sly remarks. It was direct, public, and aimed squarely at him. Zarthan Vale stood at the center of the yard, his imposing frame casting a long shadow under the artificial sunlight. The Nixari warrior, a member of one of the galaxy's most dominant species, was a symbol of physical perfection, 7 feet tall, with iridescent scales that shimmered in hues of green and gold. His claws flexed with anticipation, and his reptilian eyes gleamed with predatory delight. "Come on, human," Zarthan sneered, gesturing toward Alex with a clawed hand. "Show us if there's any fire behind that feeble frame of yours. Or do you need to run back to your gravity-bound cradle?" A murmur rippled through the crowd of cadets and instructors who had gathered to watch the spectacle. They came from dozens of species, each more advanced and physically dominant than the last. But none looked at Alex with any expectation. A few smirked, others simply turned away, already writing off the outcome. Alex's heart pounded in his chest, but his face remained impassive. The Nixari weren't just strong, they were known for their unparalleled speed and combat reflexes. Facing one in a duel was tantamount to suicide for someone like him, a human with no genetic enhancements, no cybernetic upgrades, and no legacy of galactic dominance to lean on. But walking away wasn't an option. Not anymore. "I'll do it," Alex said, his voice steady but quiet enough that the crowd leaned into ear. "I accept your challenge." The murmurs grew louder, tinged with disbelief. Zarthan tilted his head, mock surprise plastered across his sharp features. "Bold words. I admire your courage, if not your common sense." "You'll admire a lot more when I'm done," Alex shot back, earning a few gasps from the crowd. Zarthan's grin widened, revealing rows of serrated teeth. "Tomorrow. Noon. The combat arena. Try not to get yourself injured before then." As the crowd dispersed, the weight of what Alex had just agreed to began to sink in. He wasn't a coward, but he wasn't reckless either. He'd accepted the challenge for a reason, and not just to defend his pride. Later that evening, Alex sat cross-legged in his quarters, surrounded by holographic displays of Nixari physiology and combat techniques. The room was sparse, the standard issue for a cadet, but the walls were lined with a few personal touches, a photograph of his family back on Earth, a framed patch from his time in the Terran Defense Corps, and a small, worn book on human strategy through the ages. He rubbed his temples, trying to focus. Zarthan's strength and agility were overwhelming, but Alex knew that brute force wasn't invincible. Every species, no matter how dominant, had a weakness. The Nixari, for all their power, were predictable. They relied on their speed and strength to overwhelm opponents, often underestimating anyone they deemed inferior. Alex smirked. Zarthan had already made his first mistake. He'd underestimated a human. The door to his quarters slid open with a soft hiss, and Cadet Riya Patel, another human recruit, stepped in. "You're insane, you know that," she said, crossing her arms. "Good to see you too, Riya," Alex replied without looking up. "You can't win this. Everyone's saying it. Zarthan's fought 6 duels this year and hasn't lost a single one. Then I'll be the first to break his streak." Riya sighed, her frustration evident. "Alex, this isn't just about you. If you lose, and you will, it's going to set humanity back in the eyes of every species here." Alex finally met her gaze, his expression calm but resolute. "And if I win?" She hesitated, the question hanging in the air like a challenge of its own. "If you win, you'll do what no one expects." "But that's a big if." "I'll take my chances," Alex said, turning back to his holoscreen. The Nixari aren't invincible. They've got blind spots, just like everyone else. I just have to find them. Rhea stared at him for a moment, then shook her head. You're impossible. But, if anyone can pull this off, it's you. As the door closed behind her, Alex leaned back in his chair, the beginnings of a plan forming in his mind. Tomorrow, he'd step into the arena, outmatched in every conceivable way. But he wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for humanity's place in the galaxy. And he didn't intend to lose. The dim light of the Academy's auxiliary training room flickered as Alex Carter pounded his fists into the padded simulator dummy, sweat dripping from his brow. Every strike was deliberate, every movement precise. He wasn't just training to survive the duel against Zarthan, he was preparing to win it. Alex had spent the early hours of the morning scouring the Academy's vast digital archives. Every combat recording of Zarthan, every record of Nixari physiology, every tactical analysis ever conducted on the species now played on a loop in his mind. Zarthan might have had superior strength, speed, and reflexes, but he wasn't unbeatable. The Nixari, Alex realized, had one critical flaw: they fought with arrogance. Their overwhelming physical superiority had bred complacency. They relied on sheer power and speed to dominate their opponents, rarely bothering to adapt or anticipate unorthodox strategies. That, Alex decided, would be his opening. The training room door slid open with a soft hiss, and Rhea Patel stepped in, her expression a mixture of curiosity and concern. She held a datapad under her arm, her dark hair pulled back into a tight braid. "You've been in here for hours," she said, leaning against the doorway. "Everyone else is betting on how long you'll last tomorrow. The average guess is 30 seconds. "Let me guess," Alex said between breaths, landing a sharp jab on the dummy. "You didn't bet on me." "I didn't bet at all," Rhea replied, stepping closer. "Because I know you're too stubborn to go down in 30 seconds. But I also know Zarthan will crush you if you don't figure out a miracle." Alex straightened, wiping his forehead with the back of his hand. "Who says I'm looking for a miracle? Maybe I'm just looking for his blind spot." Rhea raised an eyebrow. "You found one?" "Working on it." Alex grabbed a water bottle from the nearby bench and took a long sip. "Zarthan's fast, but he overcommits. Watch any of his fights, and you'll see it, he goes for knockout blows. Big swings, heavy strikes. All power, no finesse. And you think you can exploit that?" Rhea asked, folding her arms. "He's a 7-foot-tall lizard with claws sharp enough to shred metal. You're, well, human." Alex smirked. "Exactly. He's used to opponents trying to match him in strength or speed. But humans don't fight fair, Rhea. We fight smart." Rhea sighed and set the datapad on the bench beside him. "Well, if you're planning on pulling a rabbit out of your hat, you'd better practice. I downloaded some custom combat scenarios for you. They simulate Nixari combat patterns. Might give you a better idea of what to expect." "Thanks," Alex said, his expression softening. "You didn't have to do that." "I didn't do it for you," Rhea said quickly. "I did it because I don't want humanity's reputation to crash and burn because you've got something to prove." "Sure," Alex said with a grin. "Totally not because you care." She rolled her eyes. "Just don't get yourself killed, Carter." As the hours stretched into the night, Alex immersed himself in the combat simulations. The holographic training room projected Nixari opponents with uncanny realism, their attacks fast and brutal. Alex's movements were a blur of dodges and counters, each maneuver calculated to exploit the openings created by their aggression. The simulations weren't easy. Alex lost repeatedly, slammed to the ground by the holographic Nixari's relentless assaults. But each defeat was a lesson. He learned to move faster, think quicker, anticipate better. His strategy began to crystallize: stay light on his feet, lure Zarthan into overcommitting, and strike in the split-second window where the Nixari's defenses were down. By the time Alex collapsed onto the training room floor, exhaustion threatening to overtake him, he felt a flicker of confidence. He wasn't stronger than Zarthan. He wasn't faster, but he was smarter. And that just might be enough. The next morning, Alex sat on the edge of his bunk, staring at his reflection in the small mirror mounted on the wall. His brown eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep, and his muscles ached from the night's exertion. But his mind was sharp, his resolve unwavering. A soft knock at the door broke the silence. Rhea stepped in, holding a small, rectangular box. "This came for you. Academy Administration." Alex took the box and opened it. Inside was a sleek combat suit, custom-fitted to his measurements. The suit was made of lightweight, impact-resistant material, a clear indication that the Academy didn't want its human cadet maimed in the duel. Rhea whistled. "Looks like they don't want you to die too badly." Alex smiled faintly as he ran his fingers over the suit's smooth surface. "They probably just don't want the paperwork." She laughed, then her expression turned serious. "You ready for this?" "No," Alex admitted. "But I'll be ready when it matters." As the clock ticked toward noon, Alex suited up and headed toward the arena. The halls of the academy buzzed with anticipation, cadets and instructors alike eager to witness the spectacle. Whispers followed him wherever he went, but Alex tuned them out. His focus was singular. This wasn't just about him. It was about proving that humanity, despite its fragility and inexperience on the galactic stage, had something the other species didn't understand. It wasn't strength. It wasn't speed. It was the ability to think under pressure and the determination to never back down. The combat arena buzzed with anticipation, the air thick with tension. Hundreds of cadets and instructors from every corner of the galaxy filled the observation stands, their faces a tapestry of intrigue, amusement, and outright disbelief. For many, this was a spectacle, a formality before the inevitable. A human cadet versus a Nixari warrior? The result seemed preordained. Alex Carter stood in the center of the arena, his heart pounding against his ribs. The combat suit he wore felt heavier than it should, its snug fit amplifying the weight of expectations, or lack thereof. His fingers flexed around the hilt of the training blade, a weapon designed to simulate real combat without causing lethal harm. It hummed softly with contained energy, a faint glow tracing the edge. Opposite him, Zarthan Vale loomed, his imposing figure casting a long shadow across the arena floor. The Nixari warrior radiated confidence, his iridescent scales shimmering under the artificial sunlight. He held no weapon, relying instead on his natural arsenal of claws, teeth, and brute strength. His lips curled into a predator's grin as he regarded Alex with a mixture of amusement and disdain. "Still time to back out, human," Zarthan said, his voice a low rumble that carried across the arena. "Spare yourself the humiliation." Alex tightened his grip on the blade. "Thanks for the concern. I'll take my chances." The crowd erupted in murmurs, a ripple of surprise at Alex's defiant tone. Zarthan's grin widened. "As you wish." The arena's automated announcer boomed to life, cutting through the noise. "Combatants, prepare. The duel will commence in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Begin." Zarthan moved first, a blur of motion that left a faint ripple in the air. He closed the distance between them in an instant, his claws slashing toward Alex's torso. It was a strike meant to end the fight before it began, a display of overwhelming speed and power. But Alex wasn't there. He sidestepped the attack, the tips of Zarthan's claws grazing the fabric of his suit. Pivoting on his heel, Alex brought the training blade around in a calculated arc, aiming for the exposed joint of Zarthan's shoulder. The blade connected with a crackle of energy, eliciting a hiss of surprise from the Nixari. The crowd fell silent. Zarthan recovered quickly, his reptilian eyes narrowing. "Clever," he said, his voice dripping with irritation. "But it won't happen again." The duel became a blur of movement. Zarthan attacked with relentless aggression, each strike a showcase of his superior speed and strength. Claws sliced through the air, each swing powerful enough to disable a lesser opponent. But Alex refused to stand still. He moved with precision, dodging and deflecting, his every step calculated to draw Zarthan further into a trap. From the stands, Rhea Patel watched with bated breath. She could see what Alex was doing. He was exploiting Zarthan's greatest weakness, his overconfidence. The Nixari warrior was growing frustrated, his strikes becoming wilder, less precise. "He's baiting him," Rhea muttered under her breath, a flicker of hope igniting in her chest. Back in the arena, Alex felt the shift in momentum. Zarthan's attacks, once measured and deadly, had become reckless. The Nixari's frustration was palpable, each missed strike feeding his anger. Alex seized the moment. Feinting to his left, Alex ducked under a sweeping claw and drove his blade upward, striking the vulnerable underside of Zarthan's arm. The energy discharge sent a jolt through the Nixari's body, causing him to stagger. The crowd gasped. Zarthan snarled, his composure slipping. "You think you've won?" he growled, his voice a thunderous roar. "I'll show you." Before he could finish, Alex lunged. He feinted again, drawing Zarthan's attention to his right, then pivoted sharply and delivered a precise strike to the back of the Nixari's knee. Zarthan crumpled to one knee, his balance faltering. Alex didn't hesitate. He stepped forward, pressing the blade's tip against Zarthan's throat. "Yield," Alex said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. The arena was silent. Zarthan's jaw clenched, his eyes burning with fury. For a moment, it seemed he might refuse. But then he let out a low growl and lowered his head. "I yield." The announcer's voice boomed. "The victor, Cadet Alex Carter of Earth." The silence shattered into a cacophony of cheers, gasps, and stunned murmurs. Alex stepped back, lowering his blade. His chest heaved as he looked out at the crowd. For the first time, they weren't smirking or dismissing him. They were watching him with something new, respect. Zarthan rose slowly, his gaze locked on Alex. He said nothing, but the look in his eyes was clear. This wasn't over. Alex turned and walked off the arena floor, the weight of his victory settling on his shoulders. He hadn't just won a duel. He'd sent a message. Humanity wasn't to be underestimated. The corridors of the Galactic Academy hummed with a different energy after the duel. Everywhere Alex walked, heads turned. Conversations hushed as cadets of all species watched him pass. For the first time since his arrival, Alex wasn't invisible. His victory over Zarthan Veiled had rewritten the narrative. But Alex wasn't basking in the glow of triumph. His body ached from the duel, every muscle reminding him of how close he'd come to failure. He replayed the fight in his mind, not to revel in his victory, but to dissect every move he'd made. There would be no room for mistakes if he faced another challenge. Inside the Academy's infirmary, Zarthan sat on a treatment bed, his scales dulled with the sting of humiliation. The Academy's medical drones buzzed around him, repairing minor damage from the energy strikes. He stared at the wall, his expression unreadable. "Your pride took a bigger hit than your body," a voice said. Zarthan turned his head to see a tall figure entering the room. Commander Alaric, one of the Academy's senior instructors, loomed over him. The Zerthan's silver-hued skin and piercing blue eyes radiated authority. "He got lucky," Zarthan growled, his claws flexing against the edge of the bed. "Luck had nothing to do with it," Alaric said. "You underestimated him. Worse, you underestimated humanity." Zarthan's jaw tightened. "They're weak. Fragile. And yet, one of them defeated you," Alaric countered. "Strength isn't everything. Perhaps you've learned that now." Zarthan's eyes burned with frustration, but he said nothing. Alaric regarded him for a moment longer before leaving. As the door slid shut, Zarthan clenched his fists, the memory of Alex's blade at his throat replaying in his mind. Meanwhile, Alex found himself summoned to the Academy's council chamber, a place he'd never imagined stepping into. The room was vast and circular, its walls lined with holographic displays of galactic maps and Academy insignias. Seated at the central table were the Academy's senior leaders, representatives from various species, each wearing an air of authority. Alex stood before them, his posture straight despite the weight of their gazes. Cadet Carter, began Admiral Linera, a regal Vrinian with translucent skin that shimmered like glass. Your performance in the duel has sparked considerable discussion. Thank you, ma'am, Alex said, unsure of where this was going. Your victory against Zarthan Vale was unexpected, Linera continued, her voice calm but firm. You demonstrated exceptional tactical acumen and adaptability, traits that we value deeply at this institution. However, your actions have also disrupted the Academy's delicate social balance. Alex frowned. With respect, Admiral, I didn't enter the duel to disrupt anything. Zarthan challenged me. I accepted. And in doing so, you've become a symbol, Linera said. Humanity's place within the galactic community has been questioned since your species joined us. Your victory has shifted perspectives. It has also drawn attention, some welcome, some less so. Another council member, a grizzled Tarvaxian with 4 arms folded across his chest, leaned forward. There are those who see your success as a fluke, Carter. Others see it as a threat. You've opened a door, but you've also painted a target on your back. Alex took a deep breath. I didn't set out to make a statement. I just wanted to prove that we belong here. You've done more than that, Linera said, her expression softening. But with great visibility comes great responsibility. We expect you to continue demonstrating the qualities that earned you this victory. Alex nodded. Understood. As the meeting concluded, Alex left the chamber with a mix of pride and unease. He hadn't just won a duel, he'd become a symbol of humanity's potential. But symbols had a way of attracting attention, and not all of it was friendly. That night, as Alex sat in his quarters, Rhea joined him, dropping into a chair across from him. She studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. You okay? She finally asked. I should be, Alex said, rubbing the back of his neck. But it feels like winning the duel was the easy part. Rhea nodded. Yeah, now you've got every species at the Academy wondering if you're a one-hit wonder or the start of something bigger. I don't want to be anyone's symbol, Alex said. I just want to prove we're capable. You already have, Rhea said. But proving it once isn't enough. They'll keep testing you, Alex. Zarthan won't be the last. Alex leaned back, the weight of her words sinking in. Then I guess I'll have to keep winning. Rhea smirked. Good. Because like it or not, you've just become the face of humanity at the Academy. No pressure. Alex managed a tired laugh. No pressure at all. As Rhea left, Alex stared out the window at the stars beyond. The duel was over, but his real fight was only beginning. Humanity had earned its place in the spotlight, and Alex knew it was up to him to ensure they stayed there. The victory was a spark that ignited flames across the Galactic Academy. Whispers turned into debates, debates into fervent arguments, as Alex Carter's name became the center of a galactic conversation. Humanity had been underestimated for so long that his triumph over Zarthan was more than just a duel, it was a statement. But for Alex, the aftermath was anything but celebratory. It came with scrutiny, tension, and a growing sense that this was just the beginning of something far larger. The Academy's main courtyard was bustling with activity as Alex walked toward the training complex. Heads turned, and conversations stopped mid-sentence as he passed. Some nodded respectfully, others sneered or whispered behind his back. The reactions varied by species, but the attention was the same. Carter, a gruff voice called. Alex turned to see Zarthan Vale approaching. The Nixari warrior's presence was as commanding as ever, though there was no longer the air of invincibility surrounding him. His posture was stiff, his expression unreadable. Zarthan, Alex greeted, keeping his tone neutral. For a moment, the two stood in silence, the buzz of the courtyard fading into the background. Then Zarthan spoke, his voice low and even. You fought well. Alex blinked, surprised. Thank you. But don't think this is over, Zarthan continued, his golden eyes narrowing. You won one fight. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. I wouldn't expect anything less, Alex replied. There was no malice in his voice, only a quiet resolve. But if you want a rematch, you'll have to wait in line. Zarthan's lips curled into what might have been a grin, or a baring of teeth. Careful, human. Confidence can be a dangerous thing. As the Nixari walked away, Alex felt the weight of the exchange settle over him. Respect might have been earned, but it was fragile, and Zarthan's words were a reminder of the challenges that still lay ahead. Later that day, Alex found himself summoned again, this time to the Academy's research wing. The sterile white halls hummed with activity, researchers and technicians moving between labs filled with holographic displays and advanced machinery. A tall, wiry figure greeted him at the entrance to one of the labs. Professor Alex, a spindly Threnian with elongated limbs and a perpetually inquisitive expression, gestured for Alex to follow. I've been expecting you, Cadet Carter, Alex said, his voice a melodic hum. Your performance has caught the attention of more than just the cadets and instructors. That doesn't sound ominous at all, Alex replied, stepping into the lab. Alex chuckled, his translucent skin glowing faintly. Not ominous, opportunistic. Humanity has proven itself adaptable, resourceful. Traits that some of us in the scientific community find intriguing. Alex crossed his arms. What exactly are you saying? Alex gestured to a holographic display showing a map of the galaxy. Several points blinked red, marking the edges of known space. There are regions beyond our borders, uncharted territories, dangerous sectors. The Academy is forming an elite task force to explore these regions, gather intelligence, and respond to emerging threats. And you want me to join? Alex asked, his tone skeptical. Precisely, Alex said. Your victory demonstrated not only skill but the ability to think under pressure, to adapt. These are qualities we need on the frontier. Alex frowned, the weight of the proposal settling over him. And what happens if I say no? You remain a cadet, enduring the scrutiny and challenges that come with your newfound reputation, Alex replied. But make no mistake, this is an opportunity to do more than prove yourself. It's a chance to shape humanity's place in the galaxy. That evening, Alex sat in his quarters, staring at the holographic briefing Alex had provided. The mission details were sparse, but the implications were clear. This wasn't just about exploration, it was about humanity stepping into a larger role on the galactic stage. Rhea entered without knocking, her expression sharp. You've been quiet since the summons. What's going on? Alex turned the display off and leaned back. They want me on some elite task force. Frontier missions, uncharted territories, high-risk stuff. Rhea whistled. Big leagues already, huh? Something like that. Alex hesitated, his brow furrowing. It's a lot. I came here to prove we belong, not to carry the weight of humanity on my shoulders. Well, too late for that, Rhea said, sitting across from him. Like it or not, you've become a symbol. And symbols don't get to sit on the sidelines. I'm just one person, Rhea, Alex said. What if I can't handle it? Rhea's gaze softened. You've already handled more than anyone thought you could. And you didn't just survive, you won. That's not luck, Alex. That's who you are. Alex sighed, running a hand through his hair. Guess there's no turning back, then. Nope, Rhea said with a grin. And for what it's worth, I think you'll crush it. Just don't forget us little people when you're out there saving the galaxy. He laughed, the tension easing slightly. I'll try not to. As the stars glimmered outside his window, Alex made his decision. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. Humanity's future in the galaxy was still unwritten, and he would do whatever it took to ensure their story was one worth telling.